Hey y'all, it's Chimdi. So I am obviously, as you can see by the title, getting very deep into the woo-woo spiritual stuff. A past life regression is something that I've heard about this. I'd heard about it for years, and I never really thought I would do one because I didn't really see the point, if I'm being honest. And then a few things changed. And so I want to share my journey to having and doing a past life regression and the impact that it's had on my life since. Before we get into it, thank you, Patreon people. Thank you so much for your support. It means a lot to me. I have a podcast called Voice Notes from Your Friend, and one thing I love to do for my Patreon people is do a part 2 of the episode exclusively for the Patreon people. So if you're a fan of my podcast and you want more, it's patreon.com/Chimdi. And thank you, of course, subscribers, everyone who likes my videos and leaves comments. Y'all are the best. Okay, let's get into it. For background, a past life regression is this therapeutic tactic, and truly I am not, you know how it is on this channel, y'all. I'm not referencing some notes, okay? I'm just talking off the dome. My understanding of what a past life regression is a therapeutic process that you do under hypnotherapy, and essentially you go back and experience one to a handful of your past lives to bring some insight and some awareness and some relief to something you might be experiencing in this life. So you already need to believe in a few things, okay? To even meet me here where I am in this video, you already need to believe in a few things. One of them being that we have past lives, because that's not a common belief. I remember talking to one of my former partners, actually. We had very different spiritual faith backgrounds, which is how you knew it wasn't gonna last. And I remember asking him about, life and what he thinks is going on here. And he was like, yeah, I think this is it. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah. I was like, okay, so you think this is the only life? We just pop in, we're here, and that's it? He was like, yup. And I was like, okay. Okay. And looking back, I honestly wish I could have been a little bit less incredulous and could have, isn't that a nice word? And could have just been like, wow, okay. Okay, different belief systems. Like, I had a friend who was thinking about doing a past life regression also years ago. She had a therapist in her city who would do them. And so when I went and visited her, I kind of thought, I was like, ooh, maybe I'll do one. But I was just thinking of doing it for fun because one thing I heard during past life regressions is that you can see people who you know in your current life, and you'll see that someone who was like your sister in this life was your mama in your last life, and like your daddy in your last life was your best friend in this life. Like you get to see all these connections between your previous lives and this current life. And I was like, that would be fun. But it was a couple $100s. And I was like, it's not that fun. Fast forward to a few months ago where I was watching the wonderful A.O. Hamer's video. She just casually referenced Dolores Cannon and one of her books called like Children of the Garden or Gardens of the Soil, something to do with the garden. I'm the kind of person, I'll literally just be consuming whatever kind of media, and if someone references a book and it sounds interesting, I will just go to the library and check it out and start reading it. That one book I read, the one about the garden, is I believe one guy's past life regression. So she just works with this one person over a series of sessions. His past life regression shows him that he basically is an alien from another planet who's got this mission, da 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 da. I'm very entertained. I'm kind of reading it like fiction. I believe it, but I'm just kind of reading it like fiction, thinking, oh wow, I wonder what would be revealed if I did a past life regression, but not thinking like that I wanted to do it, and really feeling a sense of overwhelm, like I don't have time for a mission, all right? Like I'm just trying to get through the day, all right? I'm just trying to heal this trauma. I don't have time for an intergalactic mission, not right now, give me a second. And then a few weeks later, I found myself just like wanting to consume more of her content. And so I read a few more of her books, and these are many different people's regressions, but what they have in common is that they all have to do with people having like alien lives and stuff like that. See, this is where I messed up. So because I only read these very specific accounts of past life regressions, in my mind, I was like, I am almost certainly an alien from another planet with some intense Earth mission, and I gotta do my past life regression so I can find out what it is. I did consciously think this, but I also I thought it'd be fun. I was like, let's find out, let's see. That was the baseline for me doing a past life regression. And then I was listening to a friend of mine's podcast. It's called Awakened Now What. I've also been on that podcast, so check out my episode. They interviewed a hypnotherapist based out in the UK somewhere. He did past life regressions, and he was sharing the different stories to the people. His past life regression examples mostly focused on people who had issues in this life, and they did a past life regression. It somehow got them some relief. And so I signed up and I booked a past life regression. There are a few things that I want to share about this experience that I think could be helpful if you're interested in doing a past life regression or if you're just kind of curious. I think the first thing, and I asked him, I was like, how many times are the past life regressions extraterrestrial, you know? And he was like, rarely. And I was like, okay. So in that way, I was kind of able to like, all right, not gonna be a big deal. The way I did my past life regression, I thought my sister was gonna be at work, but she was off that day. So I ended up doing it right here on this couch while my sister was like cooking food in the kitchen. One difference between this guy and Dolores Cannon is that Dolores Cannon takes you down to such a deep level that you literally don't even know what you're saying. And it's only once you like return that you like can listen to the transcript and hear. But this guy was like, no, it's gonna be much more like a meditation. And when I look back, I think it was actually perfect that my sister was here because I'm the kind of person where I had never really had individual one-on-one therapy, like outside of getting support when I did that 2-year trauma healing program I did. That's still really new for me. And this is someone who I truly did not know at all. I'd only seen him on this podcast. And so there wasn't a sense of like kind of inherent trust in this person. There wasn't any kind of relationship. One thing I actually found really appealing is that this is just what he does for work. It's not like so big of a deal for him, and he's also not like forming personal relationships. He's like, all right, put some time, go on the calendar, let's do this, and let's, you know, keep it moving, right? When I went to do my past life regression, I think those 2 to 3 things of like having my sister in the next room, so not feeling so like open and vulnerable, plus not knowing this person that well, and so not really wanting to really get into it, meant that I think my version of the regression was not as intense as it could have been. Despite that, let me share what actually happened in the regression. It was really powerful and helpful for me, and I think I thought it was going to be a bigger deal than it actually was. And that has kind of been a running theme in my like life experiences across a lot of different things, like being a YouTube creator and, you know, moving to new cities, like all these different things, right? It's like we have this idea of what it will be and it's really big in our head. And then when we're actually doing it, we're like, oh, it's like this, you know? So it's literally like lie down on the couch and basically doing a meditation where someone like guides you into like, okay, just like see what comes up and just kind of flow with it, right? The overarching theme of what came up was grief, tragedy, like suffering. So it's all these different experiences of being in really like happy, safe, familial situations, and then something happening to disrupt it, which then causes a lot of like grief and sorrow. There was one where I remember at one point after this has happened like a few different times, I'm like walking in this field wearing this all black mourner's outfit. And I felt in that moment that I made this resolution to essentially not allow myself to get to that point again in terms of like opening my heart to that kind of happiness and joy, and instead remain committed to being in this grieving process. And one thing that was so interesting to me was that I went through a series of experiences where it was like, I'm in this kind of family situation, everything is good, and then like, oh no, I'm starting to get scared, something's happening, you know, like I went through that again and again. And every time the hypnotherapist would be like, okay, let's like leave this situation. And so consistently, I felt such a reluctance to leave. Like I felt this sense of it would be dishonoring the experience and the people to somehow leave and stop grieving. That was sort of like the main thing that I got from my past life regression. I was then taken to like talk to my spirit guides. In talking to them, I asked this question. Well, my hypnotherapist guided me to ask this question about what is the lesson that I'm supposed to learn from this. And the main one was, you think you're honoring and, you know, holding on to these people that you've lost by continuing to grieve them, but you don't have to do that anymore. You don't need to honor people who are gone by continuing to be sad and sorrowful and grieve them, you know? You can let them go. And it was so fascinating because that's what I experienced, where a part of me really did believe that that's how we honor the people and the love that we've lost or that has been taken from us, is to continue to grieve them. And in that moment, it was like, no, you don't have to do that. And I was like, I don't? And I was like, no. And I was like, what? Like, so it was just this like, it really was this opening of like, oh, as I say it now, it doesn't make any sense. Like, of course, the people who love you want you to be happy. They don't want you to just like stay in this ever-present grief, right? But for some reason, I really did think like, this is how I honor the love that I had, is to keep forever grieving them lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. I also had like a handful of experiences where it didn't end in trauma. It was just like being in a happy, healthy family, and then I like die in my sleep, you know? Like, it was just like wonderful. And my hypnotherapist therapist kind of mirrored that to me. It was like, you know, you also had these experiences where it was okay. And I was like, yeah, that's true. When I look at my current life, the way I had been approaching success across different areas of my life was I may have these different highs and these different things that'll happen, but inevitably it will be followed by some kind of crash, some kind of downfall. You know, like there's an inevitability to that experience. In doing this regression, I really felt and saw how there's so much. And this was probably my favorite part was when I, you know, spoke to my spirit guide, like I could feel in them such a tremendous excitement and joy for the things that I was going to experience. It was like such a full feeling of like, I can hardly wait for you to see what you have coming. The intensity of that joy is what felt so true for me. And after the regression, I was asking the hypnotherapist, like, how much of this was I making up? How much of this was me just like having watched a movie last week and it's on my spirit and I'm just pulling on things from that experience, you know? And he said, usually the emotion is the indicator of whether something is true. And I know when I was doing some of the regression around like losing people and family, I was really crying tears. And I really had tried not to. I literally had like prayed the night before, like, God, please help me to not weep during this past life regression. And the tears, they rolled. But then also when it came to, you know, talking to my spirit guide, the laughter and the joy and the excitement was also just as real and true. Of course, the question is, okay, what has changed in your life since doing that? Y'all know I engaged in a lot of different things, all right? I got a lot of different things going on, whether it's these different manifestation techniques, these different books I'm reading, this process work I'm doing. And I'd actually watched this one woman's video. She said this thing about essentially taking a break. Like, you've been doing a lot of healing work. It may be time to just chill, just for these next few weeks. And I was like, okay. And I knew, similarly, I knew it resonated because I was just watching it and suddenly I was crying. And I'm like, why am I crying? Clearly this is hitting me on a level deeper than what I'm conscious of. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna take a break. So literally I had my regression the next day, but I was like, okay, this is gonna be my last healing thing for a little bit. I'm gonna take a sort of 3-week break and not engage in any kind of intense healing process work. So I do this regression. The next day, I get an email from this company that wants to like license my YouTube content and like put it on television. It literally was like immediate. And the things that I had took to my hypnotherapist in terms of what do you want to work on in this session was around the fear of success and then the fear of trust when it comes to romantic relationships. Essentially what I saw in the regression was like, whenever things are great, it kind of comes with a downfall. And so it's best to just not even just commit to like this grief, right? And so literally immediately after that, I had this really cool creative opportunity. Now I do want to say that I did have a sense that I was going to get some really cool creative opportunity in the month of September. I just like had that sense and I've had it for a while now. So it's so hard to say like what's related to what. I also in a past video talked about my email manifestation thing and it came via email, right? So it could be tied to that. So it's really tough to say one-to-one causality, like I did this regression and then I had this opportunity, but I would say just the insight and the awareness around the way we honor the people we love and the way we can accept and welcome in beautiful experiences without this ever-present fear that they will be sort of taken away and ruined. I feel like those two insights were really, really powerful for me. And you know, that's what I'm really grateful for. I did expect to find out that I was an alien. I'm not gonna lie. Part of me feels a way that it doesn't seem that there's any kind of extraterrestrial intergalactic federation space stuff going on. I'm not gonna lie, but maybe that's gonna be in the next regression. Though I also must say, I had a friend ask me if I would do it again, and I have to say I really do not feel called. I feel like this was the kind of thing where it was on my spirit and so many synchronicities happened. I just kept listening and then I had this experience. But in this moment, I don't feel that call again. Though I also must say one thing I'm really experiencing is how quickly things can drop in as something you should consider doing or something that you would get a lot of benefit from. Because I've never even heard of Dolores Cannon, and I went from like hearing her in video after video and reading the book and then seeing the, like, it was just all these things that lined up so perfectly. If something like that happens again, where there's another clear lineup of synchronicities that point me in the direction to do it again, I would. But I feel pretty complete. Though I will also say this was my first time being really proactive about getting one-on-one therapy, and the benefit to my life and the value of just having someone who like doesn't really know you like that, you know, but they really have one job, is just help you in this really particular way. That I'm like, oh, this is great. Still don't have a therapist, but every day I get closer and closer to actually getting that kind of one-on-one support. That was my past life regression experience. Let me know in the comments. Have Have you ever been hypnotherapized? Would you do it? Are you interested? Do you know about your past lives? I must say I didn't meet anyone in this life who I knew from another life, which was also kind of a bummer. I am a little bit curious to see what it would be like if I went a layer deeper, so it wasn't like just the meditation state, but like really deep unconscious state. But I know, like I said, that if that's what I'm supposed to do, things will similarly align to make it happen. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what, if any, of this resonated. And I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.